Hey everyone, I'm Mike, and welcome to The Long Way Home. If you already know me from my Two-Lane Traveler channel, you know I usually talk about back roads, diners, muffler men, and lots of other classic Americana. But sometimes life takes a turn that doesn't quite fit on that channel, and that's what The Long Way Home is for. It's where I plan to share the stories that shaped me, the personal ones, the unexpected ones, the ones that stay with you. Today's story is one of those. A few months ago, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes completely out of the blue, right after a fantastic road trip that took me to quite a few of my favorite vintage diners. My doctor immediately wanted to put me on medication, but I asked for 90 days to try a different route. No drugs, just food, exercise, and discipline. What happened next surprised both of us. So let me take you back to the day I found out and how those first 90 days changed everything. This all started at the end of one of the best road trips of my life, and believe me, I take a lot of them. I had just visited 32 vintage diners in 6 or 7 northeastern states, but on the way home something just didn't feel right. As I drove, I started having some pains in my chest and upper back, almost like someone poking me with a dull needle. My grandfather died of a massive heart attack when he was 54, so I wasn't just going to ignore this, and I decided to visit my doctor when I got home. He couldn't find anything wrong. He was pretty sure it wasn't my heart, though, but said we'll keep an eye on it. As we talked, he noticed that I hadn't had any blood work done in almost 3 years and asked if I wanted them to update it. Since I was already there, I told him to go ahead. It turned out to be a serendipitous suggestion. I received a surprise call from him the next day telling me that my blood work showed that I have type 2 diabetes. He told me I needed to schedule an appointment with him as soon as possible. My initial reaction was confusion, disbelief, and curiosity. I scheduled an appointment for 4 days later, the first one they had available. That night, Sharon and I fell down the type 2 diabetes rabbit hole on YouTube and Google. Neither of us knew much of anything about diabetes, but we started reading everything we could, and we watched numerous YouTube videos, all the while trying to sort out the factual from the complete BS. During my career, I was a professional researcher, and Sharon is very smart. So we were able to sort out the legitimate research from the BS pretty quickly. We learned about things like A1Cs and glucose scores and what kinds of things can impact them. Things like diet, exercise, sleep quality, and stress. The first thing we did that night was to empty out the refrigerator and pantry of all the stuff that I shouldn't be eating. I have a real sweet tooth, so there was a lot to get rid of. We went grocery shopping to buy healthy replacements. I already ate lots of fresh and frozen fruits, and we stockpiled even more. We replaced pasta and starches like rice and potatoes with fresh and frozen vegetables. We reduced the carbs in my diet in general and replaced them with proteins and healthy fats like nuts, avocados, and plain Greek yogurt. We weren't sure that we were doing everything correctly, but I was pretty sure that fresh bell peppers and blueberries were a lot better for me than ice cream and potato chips. Even if we made some incorrect choices, we knew that overall these changes had to help. As we moved forward in anticipation of the doctor's appointment, our first realization was, we can actually fix this. But almost as quickly, the second realization hit. What if we can't? What does that mean for my road trips? And if I can't take road trips anymore, my favorite activity will come to an end. And if that happens, I'll no longer have content for my YouTube channel, Two-Lane Traveler, and it'll die a quick death. So Sharon and I just decided to do the things we have control over and avoid worrying about things we can't. Easier said than done, however, and I spent a fair amount of time brooding over what my life might become. But we immediately started to eat better, get a bit of exercise by taking walks, and thinking about what our future might look like. When Sharon and I got to the doctor's appointment, he began with the bad news. My A1C was 11.3 and my fasting glucose score on the day that they took my blood sample was 288. I didn't really know what that meant, but I knew it must be bad. To give you an idea of how bad, an A1C of 7 or higher is considered diabetic territory. Or some sources say a score of 6.7 or higher makes you a diabetic. Or still others say a score of 6.5 or higher makes you a diabetic. There doesn't seem to be a clear medical consensus on the cutoff between diabetes and pre-diabetes. But everyone does seem to agree that an A1C of 5.7 is the beginning of the pre-diabetic range. It means you should be paying close attention to your glucose score, but you're not diabetic yet. A score under 5.7 means that your blood is normal. You aren't diabetic and aren't in danger of being diabetic anytime soon. An A1C score just under 5.7 equates to a fasting glucose average score of 116. But I digress. If somewhere between 6.5 and 7 defines me as diabetic and my score is 11.3, holy crap, what happens now? Well, the next words out of the doctor's mouth were Ozempic, Mounjaro, and Metformin, and I could almost feel my blood sugar rise just hearing them. Pharmaceuticals, nasty drugs, each with its own long list of side effects. Sometimes the side effects are stronger than the intended purpose of the drug. Weight loss is a side effect of Ozempic, so much so that lots of people take it for that particular side effect, and the manufacturer, Novo Nordisk, markets it that way. It seems to do a much better job of causing you to lose weight than in helping to bring your A1C down. But Ozempic has lots of other side effects too. Common ones include nausea, diarrhea, constipation, fatigue, dizziness, abdominal pain, bloating, burping, heartburn, loss of appetite, blurred vision, and injection site reactions. And then there are the serious ones, including hypoglycemia, allergic reactions, gallstones, tachycardia, pancreatitis, and kidney damage. Sharon and I have had many discussions about pharmaceuticals over the years, long before this diagnosis. And we're both in agreement that quality of life is way more important than just continuing to exist. I can't say with absolute certainty that I'll never take a pharmaceutical, but it's hard to imagine a circumstance in which I would. So I just said to my doctor, no thanks, I have a better idea. Let's take an organic approach to this. I'll eat better, exercise regularly, and try my best to get a good night's sleep each night. After 90 days, we'll see how everything looks and go from there. He said he didn't want to wait 90 days because my A1C was so high, so he made a counteroffer. He'd prescribe a glucose meter for me. I'd take my fasting glucose score each morning for 30 days. He and I would talk after 30 days. If my glucose score was no worse than the 140 range, we could keep going. Otherwise, he'd prescribe one of the drugs for me to take. I agreed to monitor my glucose score each day and call him after 30 days, but I made no promises regarding the drugs. I knew that I wouldn't take them no matter what the outcome was. We left the doctor's office and got busy. First stop was Walgreens, where we picked up the glucose meter and got a quick tutorial on how it works. I still spent most of the day reading the instructions, trying to figure everything out. Our second stop was our local senior center, where we renewed our lapsed membership so we could take advantage of their excellent exercise equipment. Next, we contacted a well-respected nutritionist by the name of Monique Richard in Johnson City, Tennessee, and made an appointment to see her. She proved to be extremely helpful by tweaking our diet, discussing our exercise routine, and sharing her knowledge of dietary supplements. The next 30 days were highly structured. I started each day at around 7 to 7:15 a.m. with my fasting glucose reading. Next came regular exercise at the senior center, just on weekdays because they're closed on the weekends. I went most days, and I would exercise on the treadmill and using other exercise equipment for about 40 to 60 minutes. Sharon and I would carefully plan my meals each day, and I meticulously logged everything that went into my mouth in my food diary. I kept track of what I ate and the amount of calories, grams of carbohydrates, and grams of fiber I consumed. I ate and still eat 5 to 6 times a day. Breakfast around 7:30 or 8, a morning snack at about 10:30, lunch at about 1, an afternoon snack at about 3:30, and dinner at about 6. That's every 2.5 hours over the course of the day. If I find myself way behind on calorie consumption, I would have an evening snack around 8:30 p.m. to catch up, but that only happened about once or twice a week. So how did the first 30 days go? I'll give you the quick answer, then describe the whole 90-day period. Within 2 weeks of careful diet and exercise, my fasting glucose score was below our 140 target every day. A few days here and there it was down below 116, which is below the pre-diabetic range and into the normal range. It was going very well, and then Scotland happened. Sharon and I had planned a 10-day trip to Scotland several months before my diagnosis, and we felt confident that we could do well in maintaining the success we had already achieved. We were wrong. The 5-hour time change and jet lag threw all of our meals out of whack, and it was hard to maintain portion controls when every meal was in a restaurant. I also ate things here and there that I shouldn't have. Mashed potatoes and cottage pie, sticky pudding for dessert, and a Scottish ale in a historic Scottish pub. Well, actually it was more like 3 ales in 3 different pubs. I kept taking my glucose readings each morning, and the news was consistently bad. 143, 150, 137, 157, 162, 189, 151, 162, 185, 184. Then on the morning we got home from the airport, it was 221. I realized that on the 5-hour drive home from the airport, I'd consumed a 5-hour energy drink before taking my glucose score. So undoubtedly that spiked the result. So I wasn't too concerned about that. But I was really depressed by the time we got home, feeling like all of our hard work had gone down the drain and we were starting over again from scratch. But we did it, and it actually didn't take any time at all to get back on track. Within 3 days, I was back under 140, and within 5 days, I was under 130. So once I got back down to normal for the last 49 days of this 90-day cycle, things were good. I only spiked above 140 twice, and my average glucose reading was 121 for all of those days. Here are the results over the 90-day period. The star on the top left of the chart is my 239 score on day 1 after getting my glucose meter. The area where my scores start spiking upward again is our Scotland trip, and to the right of that is the last 49 days. Everything below the red line is a score below the 140 target range. You can see that except for the beginning few days and our trip to Scotland highlighted in red, the results are stunningly good. Being a data nerd, I knew that my A1C score is perfectly correlated with the glucose readings, but it's a weighted average. That means that my glucose score from 90 days ago has little, if any, impact on my A1C score, and my glucose score from the day my blood sample was taken has the most impact on my A1C. I put together a linear weighting scheme and predicted that my A1C would be 6.1 when my new results came in. At least it would be 6.1 if my weighting scheme was reasonably accurate and the glucose meter that I was using was accurate as well. My actual result? In 90 days, my A1C went from 11.3 to 6.1. I don't know whether the data nerd in me was more excited about my score being so low or that I had predicted it exactly. The doctor was very surprised. He said he'd never seen a drop like that before without medication. I wanted to suggest that he keep that in mind before he tries to push all of these pharmaceuticals on his patients, but I bit my tongue. He's a nice guy and he thinks what he's doing is in the best interest of his patients. That may be true for most of them, but definitely not for me. So here we are today. I have my next blood test scheduled at the next 90-day interval in January 2026. I'll share the results with you when it happens, but spoiler alert, after the first 25 days into this cycle, my average glucose score is 111, well into the normal range of a non-diabetic person. This included 3 overnight road trips where I prepared some meals to take with me, and I ate others in restaurants without any negative spikes in my glucose. Unlike after the Scotland trip, I'm becoming increasingly confident that I can be diabetic and still live a normal life. I'm not anti-medicine, but I am pro-choice when it comes to how we heal. For me, food, exercise, and discipline works, and that's something worth sharing. Thanks for watching The Long Way Home. If this story inspired you, please subscribe. There are a lot more roads ahead. Some may include additional diabetes stories if there's an interest, but others will be on completely different topics. See you down the road.